Show. The head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm. The Curtis Rick Show on FM 88.1. AM 1230 KWSN and KWSN.com. The Curtis Rick Show being brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute. Now, here's your host of the Curtis Rick Show, the voice of the Sioux Falls Storm, Rich Rosty.
And good afternoon and hi, everybody. And I'm Rich Rosty, and welcome to the Curtis Rick Show. Here in today's show, we'll be talking to the head coach of the Storm about the games around the IFL and also about their bye week and how they're preparing for the next 5 straight weeks of games. Then also on the Curtis Riggs Show are 2 veteran players, and one is Trey Wofford. He's a defensive back, and he was all IFL defensive back last year. And also kicker Miles Bergner, and Miles had a great game down in Cedar Rapids and a great career. We'll talk about him and what things are going on in his life right now. Then also later on the show, Coach Riggs and I will be talking about the Nebraska Danger, who the Storm play on Saturday in Grand Island. Kickoff is at 7:05, and you can hear that game on our sister station, FM 107.9, starting with our pregame show at 6:45. Now, the Curtis Riggs Show is proudly presented each week by the official Storm sports medicine provider, Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital, the Storm official healthcare team, and the only 5-star rated hospital in Sioux Falls, and by Orthopedic Institute, the one to trust. So coming up next, he is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Curtis Riggs, and you're listening to the Curtis Riggs Show right here on FM 98.1 AM 1230. Sports Radio, KWSN.
If you haven't been to Eastway Sports, the Rosties wanted their new house to be unique, so they went back to Fireplace Pros. The upstairs is traditional, but the downstairs is very modern. They are delighted.
We wanted a different look and feel within our house, and Fireplace Pros, as always, helped us make it happen. They're the best.
Visit us on the web or stop by your nearest Heat and Glow or Heatilator dealer. Fireplace Pros, Heat and Glow, and Heatilator. You're going to love the way your home feels.
Listening to the Curtis Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosty.
And each week our opening interview with Storm head coach Curtis Riggs is brought to you by Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. Come see what fresh really is. Baked fresh, sliced fresh, delivered fresh. That's Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. #1 in delivery sales for the Good Sense franchise system for the past 20 years. Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. Man, that's good. He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Curtis Riggs. Coach, you enjoying your bye week, or was it a busy week?
It was busy. Yeah, it still is, and there was a lot of phone time and not a lot of downtime.
When you say phone time, you're talking to players. You're talking about what are you doing, if I may ask?
Mainly agents, then players. That's usually the progression. We talk to the agents, then we want to talk to the players, and then figuring out getting them here and getting them ready to practice with us, and figuring out who we're going to release and how do we shift the roster around.
And it's an ongoing process, isn't it? A lot of times players get into a team, they kind of feel, well, I made the squad, I got through training camp, I'm a part of the team. Their job is not secure, is it, Coach?
No. Guys in the IFL can be cut at any time. There's definitely not any guaranteed contracts by any means. So, the guys have to realize there's always someone else out there working. And there's right fits for right programs. And just because we release someone doesn't mean they can't play in the IFL. It just means, like, right now they're not the right fit for us.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the games that went on around the IFL in week number 2. Friday night, probably the best game of the entire weekend. Green Bay hosted the Nebraska Danger, who the Storm played, coming up on Saturday. And then went down to the last play of the game, where Green Bay was victorious 53-52. Tell us about that game, Coach.
Well, it's a really good game. And Nebraska was in position to win it. I mean, they had the ball with 28 seconds left at midfield, and the quarterback opted to try to go for a long pass rather than just work down the field and kick field goal. and he threw an interception. But it was back and forth all game. Really a well-played game. Two very athletic quarterbacks. I think that's the one thing as I've watched the teams this year. Many teams have gone to a very dual threat style of quarterback, and there's some very explosive runners in the league this year.
You know, you talk about this. We'll talk about the Nebraska Danger after a little bit because they are the Storm's opponent this Saturday. But they did a lot of changes of their ball club. They have 15 rookies, only 5 veterans, and 6 experienced players on that squad down in Grand Island. That's a lot of rookies.
That is, yeah. I think you're seeing, Green Bay's in a similar situation. The Storm's in a similar situation. There just comes to a point to where you just have to start to make changes, and the organizations are thinking what's best. It's not about a lack of loyalty or mistreating the players. It's time. There's a time where it's time to move on, and we got to start looking at guys that are younger and have a chance to move up, and let's bring those guys in and try to keep this train rolling.
Now, there were no games on Saturday, but there were 3 games on Sunday. Iowa Barnstormers traveled down to Quad Cities, and they were victorious over the Steamwheelers, 53-39. Any comment about that game, Coach, that you happened to notice? I'm sure you watched it.
I did. Again, 2 very athletic quarterbacks. Iowa lost Drew Powell, which it'll be interesting to see how that affects them. But the kid they have, I think Neal's his last name, very athletic. I thought the kid for Quad Cities was very athletic. A good crowd at the game. Quad Cities just, they fell behind. Iowa came out pretty sharp right away. Ryan Ballantyne really took over. And then Quad Cities fought to get back in it, but just couldn't quite get over the hump.
I was watching part of the game, and the announcers were talking. There's like 3.5 minutes left of the contest. It was a 14-point deficit, and they said, yeah, this game's pretty much over, and the fans are heading out. I'm thinking, 3.5 minutes? That's a lot of time in indoor football.
Well, I found it funny because the announcer, with 11 minutes left in the game, was talking about this is a pivotal drive.
Yeah.
I think Quad Cities was down 7, and Iowa had the ball, and he's saying this is a pivotal drive of the game. This could seal the deal for Quad Cities losing this game. I thought, oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, there's so many things that can change.
And it did, and just for lack of a couple of completions, Steamwheelers could have made it even closer because it was close until about the last, probably about 2 minutes or so. The other 2 games that went on, Arizona hosted Cedar Rapids River Kings, and Arizona made quite a statement down there, 81-37 over the River Kings.
Coach Guy was texting me nervous about this game, and I told him they would win by 35 at least. I just felt like Arizona looks like the team that we would frequently have where you just get a lot of guys back. You get a lot of guys back, and you come out and you look really good at the beginning of the season because you're pretty much just picking up where you left off.
Yeah.
And they look that way right now. And I was not impressed watching Cedar Rapids when you go back and watch the film. We gave up 4 touchdowns that were just complete blown coverages. We just didn't execute very well on offense, and I felt like we left a lot of points out there. I just knew that Arizona was going to really be able to get after the basic things that Cedar was doing.
Talking to Storm head coach Curtis Riggs on the Curtis Riggs Show. The other game that took place was last night. San Diego Strike Force traveled to Tucson to the Sugar Skulls, and the 2 new teams, new franchises in the IFL played for the first time, and it was 64-44, Tucson getting the win over San Diego.
Yeah, and it was in San Diego.
Oh, was it? I'm sorry.
Yeah, and Tucson did a nice job of getting a large group of experienced players. They have 2 experienced quarterbacks. They have the former Green Bay quarterback, and then they have Cedar Rapids quarterback from last year. Those are two good ones. They got some nice defensive players from from Iowa, and then also a couple other teams. And so they've done a nice job of compiling veteran guys that can come in and give you a chance to win right away.
Well, Coach, when we come back, we'll talk about the bye week in a little more detail. We'll talk about the standings right now. We'll talk about some other things around the league, being that we don't have any team or highlights to play from the last week because the Storm had a bye. But we'll be right back with you, Coach, and we'll be continuing the Curtis Riggs Show. This segment brought to you by Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. Baked fresh, sliced fresh, delivered fresh. Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. #1 in delivery sales for the entire Good Sense franchise system for the past 20 years. Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. Man, that's good. We'll be back right after this.
When should you visit Sioux Falls Urgent Care? When that cold is...
When should you visit Sioux Falls Urgent Care? When that common cold is not so common. When that chicken definitely needed 2 more minutes. Or when you shouldn't have done it yourself. Sioux Falls Urgent Care specializes in medical fixes for life's glitches. We're faster than the ER at a fraction of the cost. So, when you're down from a sofa stage dive, see us. Walk-ins are welcome and most insurance is accepted. Visit Sioux Falls Urgent Care today.
You're listening to the Curtis Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosti.
Of the Curtis Riggs Show, brought to you by Eastway Bowl, the perfect spot for family fun. Eastway Sports Lounge, the official Storm road game viewing party hosts. And the next viewing party is this Saturday as the Storm travels down to Grand Island, Nebraska to take on the Danger. He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Curtis Riggs. Coach, a couple questions I had for you relative to, finding players and different things like this. I don't think we've talked about it too much, but there's a couple of other leagues that are coming up, minor leagues of the NFL, you might say, as far as their caliber, but they're in bigger cities. The Alliance Football League, and then also some other things, leagues that we had heard about. Is that affecting the player pool for the IFL?
For sure. Yeah, it definitely is. The AAF, the Alliance League, has really affected things because, you see a lot of teams trying to get players that end up making rosters for that league. And then you're also seeing guys now pulled out to come play in the IFL with the hopes of getting picked up or signed by an AAF team. So they have an agent that's saying, hey, you're a bubble guy. You're right on the cusp. If they have an injury or someone doesn't play well, you're the first guy going in. So maybe hold off on going and playing for the Storm or Arizona. And so you're seeing more guys in limbo and waiting now.
And that's fine, but some of those guys get caught in limbo forever, and it doesn't affect them positively either way. They could be getting good film for their agent. Here they're sitting and they're doing nothing, right?
Yeah, that's a big problem. You see that a lot, Rich, where guys end up sitting and they sit for so long that they end up never playing again. Because as they're sitting and waiting, there are just more and more players cycling through and taking advantage of the opportunity. And so pretty soon then that person that's sitting and waiting just becomes a forgotten commodity.
From what you've seen, has that league shown itself to be really a good draw for players with an opportunity to maybe get better viewing by scouts and coaches as far as stepping stone for the NFL?
I do think it's been a quality product and gives them a chance to get into an NFL camp. Most of these guys are guys that were drafted in very early rounds and need something like that to help them try to show, hey, I can do this. But the thing, I don't see longevity with the league. I know they're talking about what potential expansion teams, but you're already seeing it 4 weeks in, the attendance is declining rapidly, and I would expect as the weather continues to get better and better, that'll continue to happen.
When we talk about players moving on and moving up, and I wanted to touch base about a player that was with the Sioux Falls Storm last year, and what a great story, how he had played for Iowa, got a contract in the NFL, then was visiting at home, got shot in the face, and has worked his way to get back into playing football after a big rehabilitation, wound up playing for the Storm, had a fantastic attitude, and Damon Powell. Tell us about him and what he's doing right now.
Well, Damon, he got signed by Montreal in the CFL, and so he's going to go into camp and see if he can make the team and just continue to work. You know, he's going into Montreal. Jake Winicky from SDSU got signed by Montreal. Jermaine Robinson is with Montreal. Yeah, he played last year with them. And Caleb Hawley, you might remember him. Caleb just signed a new contract. He left Saskatchewan and signed with the Ottawa Red Blacks. Just signed a new 2-year deal with them.
So it's always good to see guys that have been a part of our organization here in Sioux Falls that move on and move up and have opportunities in the Canadian Football League. And Damon is just a great person and a great story. Also, I wanted to ask, any positive things that you've had as a surprise in camp this year?
Well, I think probably the biggest surprise has been some of these receivers that we've brought in. You know, we knew they had some talent, but I mean, they're exceptional. And between, you know, Brandon Shepard and Kent Shelby, really have a workman-like mentality. Trayvon Chapman has so much upside. You know, I think these are all guys that we got to continue to find ways to get them involved and try to utilize them for their strengths.
And Chapman, he has other abilities besides catching the ball, doesn't he?
He does, and those are all things that, as we talk about, trying to find ways. That's, you know, another thing as a quarterback, you know, any way we can get the ball in his hands, and then get him comfortable with making reads and progressions downfield too. As a quarterback, you want him to get those reps.
Well, Coach, it's been a great start to the season. You've had a win, you had a week off. Now we're going to be on the road for a while before we get back home on the March 22nd. We'll talk a little bit about this game coming up on Saturday against the Nebraska Danger in our final segment.
Perfect. All right, Rich, thanks.
He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Curtis Riggs, and this segment brought to you by the Eastway Bowl and the Eastway Sports Lounge, the official Storm road game viewing parties, and next one coming up on Saturday as the Storm travels down to Grand Island to take on the Danger. Coming up next, kicker Miles Bergner with the Sioux Falls Storm, and you're listening to the Curtis Riggs Show on FM 98.1 AM 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN.
On the average day, the Winklers are a splendid little family. But today is not your average day. It all started when little Susie went in for her first bite of cereal. Dad went to investigate, but had issues of his own along the way. That's when it became blatantly clear the furnace was broken, and it was time to call the service guys. Waterbury, we are service.
Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosti.
And this segment brought to you by Lewis Pharmacies. Get in, get out, feel better. And they also sponsor free ticket giveaways. So when we go to a break, we'll take your third caller at 336-1230 for free tickets for the Storm game coming up on March 9th, or check that March 22nd, as the Storm hosts the Quad City Steam Wheelers. Joining us via the fan line, he is the kicker with the Sioux Falls Storm, Miles Bergner. Miles, thanks for being on the Curtis Riggs Show.
Hi, Rich. Thanks for having me.
You know, we sometimes overlook the kicker in our society, that an offensive lineman, until it comes down to the final kick. Then all eyes are on that kicker, and over the past 2 years, you have been money at the end of games. And again, during that game down in Cedar Rapids, you come out with something like 9/10 of a second on the clock. I guess they put maybe a second and a half on it, but and you kick that winning field goal. What a great kick. What goes through your mind as you get ready for those really clutch kicks at the end of ball games?
Oh, well, I'll always answer this question with, I try to keep nothing going through my mind in that moment.
Does it work well? Is that easy for you?
Yeah, it's one of those things where you just don't really want to think about any one thing too much or worry about anything at the last second. It's just really just a game of calming your nerves, and for me, avoiding really any sort of thought process in that moment is a big key to that.
Does calling timeouts to ice the kicker, does that work or not?
You know what? I think it depends on the guy you're calling the timeout on. For me, I think it's funny because I'm usually expecting it to happen. I know Mark Stout tried to do it to me, and Kevin Guy actually tried to do it to me last year in the playoffs, I think, before halftime. And both times I just kind of, I just kind of laugh it off. I think it's kind of funny when they do that. I'm like, I know what you guys, it's a mental game, really. And, if I just approach it as comedy and giggle it off a little bit in my helmet. So,
but that's just a part of the process, though, isn't it? It'd be easy to, to really to get into that. But this is how you handle it. Everybody does it a little bit differently. Miles Bergner does it in his way, and it's been very effective.
Yeah, and that's what every kicker should have their own way of approaching things. For me, it's to kind of keep it light and approach it as every kick is a new kick and it's separate, and especially in a moment where the game's tied at the end, that really is a low pressure situation if you think about it. And this is the way I look at it, because if it's tied, we're going at the worst possible consequences. We're going into overtime if I miss, so we'll have another chance. So that's the way I try to look at those kicks. And then when if you're down and you're trying to come back and beat them, that's when the nerves hit a little bit more. But you have to approach every kick differently and keep a clear mind.
Now, you kicked for the Coyotes down at the University of South Dakota. Tell us a little bit about your career down in Vermilion.
Well, I was pretty fortunate to join the Coyotes. Started for 4 years at both place kicker and punter. Had a couple. As a kicker, I had some pretty up and down seasons. I a little shaky my freshman year, nervous freshman coming in, and then sophomore year was really strong performance, and then started off my junior year a little rough, and then we made a fateful trip up to Fargo, and beat the Bison on a last second field goal, and I think that kind of that's what they remember me for down here, So I just kind of, and after that, I was kind of riding the wave of success and positivity, and had a good finish from there.
Last year, you kicked for the Sioux Falls Storm, and you had 24 of 34, 65% field goal proficiency, long of 45, PAT 86%, and 143 points. That was only second to Lorenzo Brown. He had 144. That was a great year for you, Miles, and I congratulate you on that. And then after the game on a week ago, Saturday, you were named Special Teams Player of the Week. Congratulations for that also. Tell us a little bit about what that means to you.
Looking back at last year, I think, honestly, I could have done better. I guess I'm one of those guys who always, never satisfied. My dad is responsible for that feeling, but he's always pushed me a little bit. So I'm thankful that I was named All IFL last year. Had a great season, but as always, I always feel like I can improve, and even looking at last week, I feel like I can do better moving forward. But it's special to get that sort of thing, it feels like you earned it, and so it's always a special thing to get a league award of any kind.
Talking with Miles Bergner, the kicker for the Sioux Falls Storm. You also had a tryout with the Cleveland Browns. Tell us about that tryout last fall.
Yeah, it was right at the beginning of the year when they were having some kicking issues with their starter Zane Gonzalez, who's really actually is a great kicker. He's a great college kicker at Arizona State, and he I guess got injured and missed a couple of clutch kicks against the New Orleans Saints, and so they were kind of looking around for a new guy, and they ended up bringing in a guy named Greg Joseph from Florida Atlantic, and he was a little shaky in his first game, and I got the call to go down to Cleveland and hit the ball pretty well. Actually, one of their kickers there was Dan Carlson, who was played for the Minnesota Vikings and got cut and ended up with the Oakland Raiders, and actually in the workout I actually beat him. I had a better workout than he did. I think he was 6 for 10 on field goals, and I was 8 for 10 on field goals, 1 of 57. Kickoffs went well, hit the ball. I mean, we were hitting the ball. We were both smoking the ball out the back of the end zone. So overall, it was a good, positive experience. Very grateful to the Browns organization for even considering me. They were talking about bringing me back at some point, but hasn't materialized just yet, so never know.
Well, Coach Riggs always talked about it, that if we keep you for a full season, we'll be surprised because you are that good, and we're just fortunate to have you right now, and also you're a great guy to be around. We appreciate you being a part of the Curtis Riggs Show, and also I wanted to mention you're working on your master's degree right now down at the University of South Dakota.
Yep, working Masters in Sports Management, just a GA for facilities and events in the entire athletic department.
Well, fantastic, Miles. Look forward to seeing you on the bus, and thanks for being on the Curtis Riggs Show.
Thanks a lot, Rich. Appreciate it.
Miles Bergner, the kicker with the Sioux Falls Storm. And when we go to break, we'll take your third caller, 336-1230. 4 free tickets for that Storm game coming up on March 22nd against the Quad City Steamwheelers. And when we come back, we'll be talking with Trey Wofford. But you're listening to this segment brought to you by Lewis Pharmacies. Get in, get out, feel better. We'll be back right after this.
Hi, I'm Mike Schulte, owner of Schulte Subaru.
Your body is a complex arrangement of bone and tissue that requires only the best to maintain it. At Orthopedic Institute, that's our specialty. Our services have been specifically tailored to provide the best orthopedic care in the region. Orthopedics is what we do. That's why Orthopedic Institute is the one to trust to keep your body in motion.
By Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosti.
And again, this segment of the Curtis Riggs Show brought to you by Lewis Pharmacies. Get in, get out, feel better. And after we go to break, we'll take the third call at 336-1230. 4 free tickets for the game coming up on March 22nd as the Quad City Steamwheelers are coming to town. Joining us via the fan line, he is a defensive back. He was a rookie defensive back of the year a couple years ago, and he was all IFL last year. He's been a great part of the Sioux Falls Storm. Trey Wofford. Trey, thanks for being on the Curtis Riggs Show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Now, last year, you had the 4th greatest number of tackles in the league. You had 88 tackles. Like I said, in 2017, you're Rookie of the Year. That was with Nebraska Danger, was it not?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And then last year, you're all IFL in the... What has been your ability to be able to be in the right place at the right time?
I say just playing fast, playing with a high motor, and just giving good effort. And the coaches put me in the right spot to make plays as well.
Well, I think that's one thing about it. People don't realize just how good of a defensive coordinator Coach Brian Hermanson is. Tell us about what he's like as a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, that's my guy. He's a good coach. He's in depth, and he takes the time with you, works with everybody, and I feel like he's one of the best in the game.
Now, where did you grow up, Trey?
Atlanta, Georgia.
You grew up in Atlanta, but then you went to Middle Tennessee State College, or Middle Tennessee State University. Tell us about your time there.
I was there for 2 years because I went to junior college first, but I finished out my last 2 seasons there in Murfreesboro, and it was pretty good. It was fun there. I had fun down there in Murfreesboro. It was like 15 minutes south of Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, is that where it is? I didn't know where it was. You know, I played junior college ball years ago, and people don't realize what a great stepping stone that is for athletes to get good and get yourself settled in college and get good experience, and you go into these other programs with 2 years of playing time that a lot of the players on the team you're joining have not had that luxury. Tell us what that's like playing in the JUCO system.
Oh, JUCO, it develops you. It helps me. It helped me a lot coming out of high school because I wasn't like, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't like all the way developed. So when I went to JUCO, it helped me with my game. And I was down there in Mississippi Junior College, and I transferred to Middle Tennessee.
Okay. Talking to Trey Wofford with the Sioux Falls Storm defensive back. Last year there was a lot of change in the defense. A lot of different players came through during the course of the year. But you were the ones, the standard that was there the whole season. Tell us what it was like for you to be a leader on that team, and then how it's transitioned, because you got a lot of new guys this year too. Tell us about that, Trey.
Yeah, it was we got a lot of new guys this year too, but last year I just had to, just lead, just communicate with everybody and just talk and just be a leader on and off the field. And this year I got to do a little bit more because we got a whole new defense really. So I just got to talk more and communicate with the players, and I feel like we'll be fine.
You know, one of the things about playing for the Sioux Falls Storm that a lot of people don't realize is the fact that you have your assignment and you best do your assignment, because what happens on the rest of the field is dependent upon you doing your assignment, isn't it?
Right. Yes, sir. So you just got to do your own job. So you got to trust everybody in the defense and that they're going to be there and make their play. So you can if everybody just do their part, and the defense will be good.
What personal goals do you have?
For this season, versus win the championship this year, and just be IRFL again, and just help lead the team, really.
Now, when you're done playing football, Trey Wofford, what would you like to do with your life?
I would like to get into coaching. When I get done playing football, I would like to go back and coach back home.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, sir.
At what level?
I started at high school.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You know, and that's the thing about it. You know, people think, well, you've played professional football, you played, large college football. Wouldn't you want to be in that level? But when you think about it, you have more of an opportunity to be an influence on a young high school kid, junior high kid, than you do with a college kid. Tell us what that would mean to you to be able to influence the life of a young man like that.
Yeah, that's big for me. I feel like I want to be able to help the youth out in the community. I feel like if I just go back in the high school and just help those guys out, you know what I'm saying? That would be perfect for me.
Well, we appreciate that, and we appreciate everything that you have done for the Sioux Falls Storm, and we appreciate your leadership this year, and look forward to seeing you on the bus as we travel down to Nebraska. Now, you think that anybody down there will give you a hard time, or they welcome you back with open arms?
I think they'll welcome me back with good arms.
I'm looking forward to that. Well, Trey, thanks for being on the Curtis Riggs Show.
All right, thanks for having me.
Trey Wofford, defensive back with the Sioux Falls Storm, and he is a dandy. Now, when we go to break, we'll take your third call, 336-1230. 4 free tickets, courtesy of Lewis Pharmacies. Get in, get out, feel better. And this is the Curtis Riggs Show on FM 98.1 AM 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN.
One day, Tom's...
First Premier Bank Free Plus Checking gives you the freedom to experience life, to enjoy the things you love, and to breeze through checkout lines with free mobile wallet features. Bank anywhere you want with online account opening and instant issue debit cards. Feel the freedom of no fees, no minimum balances, and no unpleasant surprises. First Premier Bank Free Plus Checking. Apply online or at any branch location. First Premier Bank, member FDIC.
You're listening to the Curtis Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosty.
And each week, our game preview interview with the Storm head coach, Curtis Riggs, is brought to you by Good Sense Deli, Fresh Subs, 917 South Cliff Avenue, working to improve deliveries in Sioux Falls by supplementing their delivery staff with a third-party delivery company so that you get your subs baked fresh, sliced fresh, and delivered fresh. Good Sense Deli, Fresh Subs, man, that is good. He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Curtis Riggs. The Nebraska Danger, they're 1-1 on the year. Tell us about this ball club down there, head coach Pig Brown.
I think it's an athletic team. I think Coach Brown has got them playing fast, playing really hard. They very easily could be 2-0, and one mistake at the end of the game kind of cost them from getting a big road win. So I think they're doing a nice job, and it seems like they're building a good base.
I didn't see the game that they played Bismarck. They played them in the first game of the season at home. They defeated them 66-44. Anything that stood out in that victory for the Danger down in Grand Island?
They pretty much had control of the game from the beginning. I mean, they were able to create some turnovers defensively, get some scores defensively, and then had pretty much whatever they wanted offensively against Bismarck. They've got some veteran receivers, between Eric Thomas, who I think is an exceptional receiver, and then they've got the short little veteran. His name's sneaking away from me right now, but has played a long time with a multitude of teams. So between those two, they have some veteran guys that he can fall back on, and then I think their running back is really good. It's Lynch. Everyone realizes it's Marshawn Lynch's brother, but he's only 5'8", I think 185 pounds.
That's right.
But he runs really tough, and he has a lot of similarities to when we used to have James Jones at running back.
Oh, James Jones, yes, and amazing, on that 5'8" package, what he could get done. James Jones, I think, was shorter than that, but Devontae Sapp Lynch out of New Mexico Highlands University, he is a rookie this year. They have a quarterback that's been around the game of football for a while, and quarterback Tommy Armstrong, former Husker. Tell us what he brings to the ball club for the Danger.
Well, the first thing is athleticism. I mean, he is tremendously gifted. And when he runs, I mean, he's immediate threat to take it to the house. And there's times when you watch him throw and you feel like, wow, that was a great throw. And then there's other times where he'll make some bad decisions. And so hopefully we can try to get him to do more of those than the first part.
He had some time in the NFL with the Minnesota Vikings after his career at Nebraska had ended. You talked about the running back. He's got about a 5.3-yard average right now. He has 6 rushing touchdowns. Does Nebraska mix it up pretty well with their running pass?
They do. Yeah, I think they do a pretty good job of keeping you off balance. I think they want to get him comfortable with the run game between either the running back or the quarterback running the ball. But then they still have too good receivers to just let them sit out there and not try to get them the ball, too.
Yeah, the 3 of the receivers, stat-wise anyway, or 4 of them actually have pretty even stats, so they've spread the ball around a little bit. Who would you say would be the one that they would go to the most? Would it be McCormick?
No, I think he's probably third of the 3.
Okay.
I think Thomas, I think is, even though he may not lead in stats, I think he's the number 1 guy for him. And then second is that short little guy. I just cannot remember his name right now. But
Troy Evans or Eric Thomas?
Troy Evans. Troy Evans. Yep.
Yeah.
So I would say Thomas and Troy Evans. Those are their top 2 guys.
Yeah, Evans at 5'9", 200 pounds, played at Marshall. He is a veteran. He is a dandy. Defensively, tell us about the Nebraska Danger.
Well, they're going to rotate 5 or 6 defensive linemen at us. They're going to try to keep us off balance and mix up their looks. They do a good job of changing, not staying in the same thing. And they've got some DBs, I think, that play really fast. I think they do a good job of flying around in the football.
You talk about a coaching staff. They have 2 Hall of Famers in Pig Brown, the head coach, and then Hall of Famer Jamil Sewell, and they have a defensive line coach that I'm sure will probably be in the Hall of Fame, is Xavier Jackson. So if they can convert their playing prowess into coaching prowess, then Nebraska really will have something out there, won't they?
It will. Yeah, that's not always easy. It's not always, just because good players doesn't mean they're good coaches. But I think the 3 of them know each other very well. Pig Brown's extremely professional. I think he has a good head on his shoulders. And I think, the 3 of those guys together can really try to help build back to what they had when those guys played.
Well, tell us a little bit about the Storm. What are they going to bring to the table on Saturday night?
Well, we'll try to get 21 guys out there, Rich. I think, right now, as many roster changes as we've made here in this bye week, that's definitely a question mark. But you're going to see some new guys, that's for sure. You're going to see some. I mean, we released. I think we've already released 3 guys that played against Cedar Rapids.
Oh, really?
So, there's going to be some changes. I just figured I'd try to make it as tough on you as possible.
One thing about it, though, we got new jerseys, new numbers. I can see them from a block away.
Yeah, and you can thank Grant for that one. But you know what? We'll go out and we'll play hard, and I feel like and hope that we'll be better than we were. I feel like we're still going to make mistakes, though, Rich. I think we're young and inexperienced, and we're going to make some mistakes, and we're going to learn from them, and we're going to get better and better, though.
What time does the bus leave on Friday?
We're going to leave at 3:42. 3:42, we'll head down to Grand Island.
And hopefully no snow, no road trip issues, and get back sometime Sunday morning.
Boy, we hope so. Yeah, enough of that stuff.
Thanks, Coach. Good talking to you. We'll see you on Friday.
All right, thanks, Rich.
He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Curtis Riggs, and this segment brought to you by Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. Man, that's good. When we come back, we'll have the wrap-up of the Curtis Riggs Show. You're listening to it right here on AM 1230, Sports Radio KWSN.
Are you finding it impossible to focus in your home?
If you like to bowl, roll on into Eastway Bowl. Hey, wait a minute. Eastway Bowl is more than just bowling. It's a full of fun entertainment center. There's many things to do. Games. And more games, plus food. Great food. Come into our full-service sports bar and grill where you'll find terrific drinks with our popular late-night specials. Watch all your favorite sporting events at Eastway. Visit our website to make your bowling reservations and find out more about the full fun experience. Eastway Bowl and Entertainment Center, where there's something for everyone.
Hey guys, Bellator lightweight champion Michael Chandler here. I'm here at one of my favorite places in the entire world, the wrestling room. But if there's one thing we know about wrestling rooms, they can get extremely dirty. We're talking skin infections, we're talking about funk, we're talking about smelly armpits, we're talking about all kinds of stuff. So, my friends at Pure and Clean Sports came up with an awesome solution. Spray it right on your skin, wipe it off, smells great, keeps you clean from the time you leave the mats to the time you can get home and shower. Not only is it the greatest skin defense in the entire world, it's the safest. Check them out, pureandcleansports.com.
You're listening to The Curtis Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230, Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosti.
And I'm so thankful that you guys made us a part of your afternoon, all of you listening, going home, at home, on your radio in the car. We appreciate you listening to The Curtis Riggs Show right here on Sioux Falls Sports Radio, AM 1230. KWSN. Coming up on Saturday, the Storm travel down to Grand Island, take on the Danger. You can hear the game on our sister station, FM 107.9. Again, the Curtis Riggs Show is proudly presented each week by the official Storm sports medicine provider, Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital, the Storm official healthcare team, and the only 5-star rated hospital in Sioux Falls, and by Orthopedic Institute, the one to trust. Now, when we go off the air, we'll have the final Storm ticket giveaway brought to you by Lewis Pharmacies. Get in, get out, feel better. And we'll take the third caller at 336-1230 for the first home game again, March 22nd, when the Storm hosts the Quad City Steam Wheelers. Our thanks go to the Storm head coach, Curtis Riggs, and also to our guests, Trey Wofford, and to Miles Bergner. Thank you to John Michaels, our KWSN studio producer and engineer, for making the Curtis Riggs Show run so smoothly. Wanted to bring you up to date as far as the standings are concerned around the IFL. Arizona leads with a 2-0 record, followed by 3 teams that are 1-0, Iowa, Tucson, and the Storm. There are 3 teams that are 1-1, Quad Cities, Nebraska, and Green Bay. Bismarck is 0-1, and 0-2 are San Diego and Cedar Rapids. Storm going to be on the road this week and also next week as we travel up to Bismarck to take on the Bucks. Then the Storm will be home for the game on the 22nd, then on the road again to Arizona and to Bismarck again before a bye week. That'll be in the middle of April. Thanks for being listeners and fans of the Sioux Falls Storm. Thanks for listening to the Curtis Riggs Show. Have yourself a great evening. I'm Rich Rosty saying so long. This has been a sports presentation of FM 98.1 AM 1230 Sports Radio KWSN. Good night, everybody.